Live. All right. Welcome. We back again, once again, time and time again, my friends. And this is the Monday of the week, October 17th. You know, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're doing the live stream. Just doing a quick, brief breakdown of what I see going on in the market. Now, I did promise you all last week that I would be doing a full market breakdown today, and that's exactly what we'll be doing. So let's go ahead and get started on that. First pair on the watch list is XAU USD. We've been speaking about this pair once again from the monthly time frame. We've had this area acting as structure, support, broken to the downside, closed and broken below, came back for the retest. And just as I said, this is a monthly candle, so the way that it is currently is not the way that it's going to end up being. We still have 14 days and 2 hours until this candle closes. But as it is right now, we did get a retest of this area, previous structure support, downturn resistance, just nice and simple, nothing crazy. And then we're starting to get the push to the downside on the monthly time frame. If we drop to the weekly, you can see that we've had a extremely bearish push to the downside, retesting these lows. Where we could see a further continuation. You see we're starting to get a little bit of retracement. Once again, the market does not move in one direction. We know it ebbs and flows, making lower lows and lower highs if it wants to move to the downside. So that is what we're currently getting right now. We do have this makeshift area that would be some support or some structure, resistance. It was broken to the upside, acted as support, broken through. Now it's going to be retested as resistance. Just simple market structure, keeping it simple. If we drop down to the daily time frame, what can we identify from the daily? We wanted to see a deeper retracement. We did not get that, but we're starting to get a break and close below this structure area where we did get the retest, and it looks like we got the rejection. So going further the rest of this week, we could look for possible continuations to the downside on XAU USD. If we go through XAG USD silver monthly time frame, we were quite bullish on this market throughout last week, but once again, this is the monthly candle, so the way that it is now is not the way that it's going to close. But we are retesting previous structure resistance that should act as support out of this area. We did get a few bounces, creating some sort of triple bottom currently, but as we are right now, we are currently below some monthly structure. So until we break above this structure area right in here, we can't be looking for longs, or at least for a higher time frame, can't be looking for longs. What we wanted to see out of this market was a break above this structure and then some continuations, but we did not get that. And we had the rejection and a break below. So with that said, you can see that we've had this resistance level in the market here. If we do get some sort of retest of that area, we could see the market continue to the downside. Once again, we have a left shoulder here, some sort of head, and then could be a possible right shoulder where we could see further continuations to the downside. If we do drop down to the daily time frame, we can identify this structure in a little more detail. You can see that we've had a nice impulse to the downside where if we got some retracement, it would be nice to see if it came back and ended right where this M formation was created. Just as we want to see come back, retest the neckline, and that would put us in a good position to see further trend continuation to the downside. Just after a simple, nice and easy impulse, a retracement is normal. So we need some sort of exhaustion in order to see continuation to the downside. So just going forward, that is what I'm looking for on XAG USD. If we slide over to XBT USD Platinum, these are commodities, so they will tend to move the same. But if we look at platinum from the monthly time frame, the only difference here is that the monthly structure that is holding all these other pairs down underneath it, platinum has actually exploded to the upside and is staying above that area. If we look at it from the weekly time frame, we did get a break above some of these areas. We did not get a break and close, but we did break some of these highs, came back for a retest, some sort of exhaustion, and it looks like we're going to start the next move to the upside, and that's just on the weekly. If we look at the daily time frame, we can see a nice and easy perfect move right here. We have a break to the upside, breaking structure, impulse, and then we have the retracement coming back down, retesting previous structure that was broken, being used as the opposite. So in this case, it's being used as support, where we could see further trend continuation for a higher high to be created. Just, you know, really simple right there. I just want to see a move to the upside on XBT USD Platinum. Now, if we jump to oil, US oil, what did we speak about? we've been talking about, these monthly time frames aren't going to change much, guys, so it will take months obviously for there to be some noticeable changes. So this is a good time and example for us to go ahead and highlight simple market structure. We've had previous structure resistance right here. The market came back into this area, and we're right now retesting this area. Even though we had a break and close below, we're coming back to retest this structure area, and it looks like we're getting rejected. So we could see further trend continuation. It's just simple market structure. Broken resistance may be used as the opposite. So if we drop down to the weekly time frame, even though we're showing signs of different things on the weekly, we do have some sort of left shoulder here, head, and a possible area for the right shoulder over on this side. There was a quite aggressive move on the weekly back down to the downside to this area, and as we're starting so far, we are starting to create some bearish moves. If we drop down to the daily time frame, we can see a little more in detail that we have some daily structure, daily resistance right in this area that would need to be broken to the upside before we look for possible longing opportunities out of this market. But as it is right now, we have some support that was broken to the downside and now being retested as resistance. So we actually have several levels of structure that would need to be broken in order for a long to make sense. So as it is right now, if we get a break down below some of these levels, it could be possible to look for the actual move to the downside instead of the move to the upside if we start to break these levels down here and get a nice and easy retracement. So, and just either way to the upside, we would need to see these levels broken, and then we would need more continuation to the downside to look for sales. Nothing really too exciting as of right now. And now if we hop into the Forex market, we can start going over some of these pairs. Let's start off with Euro USD. We all know that Euro USD has been selling off for quite some time now. So since June of last year, excuse me, we've just been continually selling off, making lower lows and lower highs, breaking structure, creating structure, retesting that structure, and respecting that structure, excuse me. But if we drop to the weekly time frame, you can see nice and easy structure right here. We had a nice support level created. The market gave us the retracement, retesting previous structure support, now turned resistance. We broke it to the downside, came back to retest the previous structure support as resistance, and we're starting to make moves to the downside. But as we started on this week so far, we've had a push to the upside, which this is the weekly candle, and on the first day of the week, the way that weekly candle is, it's not going to be the way that it closes. We still have several days before that candle will close. But if we jump down to the daily time frame, you can see we had a level of resistance we wanted to see the market stay below. Actually, we got the retest of this perfect area, and then we want to see the continuation to the downside from that retest. But as it is right now, if the market closes within the next hour, the way that this, or if the candle closes within the next hour, the way that it is now at market close, it could be a possible start to a trend change. Not necessarily on the monthly because we're so extremely bearish, but on the daily, we could start to see moves to the upside being made if we do get a candle close like this in about an hour and 15 minutes. So let's go over GBP USD monthly time frame. I'm going to start picking it up, guys, get going a little quicker. Monthly selling off, coming back for some retracement, so we could see possible moves to the upside, just the exhaustion moves from the monthly time frame. If we look at the weekly, we have some levels of structure that would still need to be broken in order to be considered the market making higher highs. So we have the previous structure right in here that was retested, the structure support, and it was acted as resistance, and that pushed the market to the downside. We are right now currently testing that area. If we do continue to break higher, we could be looking for possible long on this market. And if we drop down to the daily time frame, if we break out of this structure resistance, really it's this one up here, if we go ahead and make a break out of there, we could see the market continue to come back and retest some of these levels up in here. And just on the daily, once again, this is the retracement of the monthly, so don't get caught up in trying to hold this for a full reversal to the upside. Remember, multi-time frame analysis and structure the right way. If we drop down to AUD USD on the monthly time frame, you can see we're extremely bearish, making moves to the downside, looking to almost retest previous structure support that should act as support once again. And if we drop down to the weekly time frame, we can see that we are quite overextended, where an exhaustion is due. But if we look at the daily time frame, we can see that we found a level of support in this area not only once but twice, indicated by this extremely long wick to the downside and this rejection. And then we're starting to break out of that area once we retested it again. So we would still need to see the market break some levels of structure before we start to look for longing opportunities. But as it is right now, I would just like to see the market come back and retest previous structure support, and then we can look for the continuation to the downside from a daily perspective. USD CAD monthly time frame, extremely bullish, exploded to the upside over the last few months. On the weekly time frame, we're starting to retest some of these highs up in here, starting to break below some weekly structure, which could indicate some further movement to the downside. On the daily time frame, as drawn out, we wanted to see the break above, a convincing break above this area, and then come back for the retest for a continuation to the upside. We did not get that. We got some weak breakouts, some false breakouts, and the market is starting to reject, especially at these highs. We're not looking to buy at the high relative to the time frame that we're on. So right here on the daily time frame, we're retesting previous structure resistance. That's not a time that you would like to be buying the market. It would be best if you could buy the market coming away from previous structure support. That's conducive to the way that we trade. It makes sense. But if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that we've had some structure support down in here that the market looks like it wants to go ahead and retest. But if we do get that, that could put us in a good situation to have a daily M pattern, and then you know how to attack that as well. NZD USD monthly time frame, extremely overextended to the downside, actually retesting some structure support down in this area. So the last time the market came down here, it just retested that from 2020, and we're starting to get a little bounce out of there. If we drop down to the weekly time frame, so on the monthly, we're retesting previous structure support that should act as support once again, so higher prices could be expected. And on the weekly time frame, you can see we're having troubles breaking down lower. If we drop down to the daily time frame, you can see as we marked out once, twice, thrice, and a fourth time, we've retested this area, not breaking below it. We could see a possible move to the upside, but first we would need to see these levels of resistance broken before it is safe to go ahead and buy this market. But as it is right now, we could see that bounce coming from just the monthly time frame. If we go over USD CHF monthly time frame, now once again, you know, this is my baby. I like to point this one out because it is a perfect example of what we do over here at the FX Savant University. So we've had just simple market structure. We have a break above structure, previous structure resistance, broke above it, closed above it, came back for a retest. The retest was right at the previous structure that was broken. So now it's previous structure resistance now acting as support. And from there, we just want to see the market create a higher high. That's simple market structure. That's the way the market moves on all time frames. It's the most common pattern in the market, just a simple break of structure, retest previous structure broken for a continuation of the trend. We're getting that actually playing out on the monthly time frame. You know, I've spoke about this almost every live stream just because we are on the monthly time frame. It has time to develop, but as you can see, it cannot be disputed. Nothing I'll do over here can be disputed. We talk about the truths in the market. If we drop down to the weekly time frame, you can see we were overextended, but we did have this weekly W formation that we would like to see completed. Come back and retest some of these areas back in here. We are starting to get that from a weekly time frame, and if we look at the daily time frame, we've had a very aggressive and bearish day today on USD CHF. This has a lot of momentum, but it did come back down to previous structure resistance that should act as support. So until this level is broken through, we really can't be looking for the shorts, but if we do get this level broken through, then we will be set up for a nice and easy M pattern at the top, move up, move down, move up, move down. We could look for the retracement back down, back up to the neckline, which would be correlating with a lot of the other resistance and structure areas if we look left. So we could have a possible, just a perfect setup that we could be trading this pair for a few weeks to come. So we have a left shoulder, all this area as the head, and we could see this as the right shoulder for a continuation to the downside. That one is really simple. It's just a matter of the patience, guys. USD JPY. What up, J Staff? You all right? You already know that's why I messed up. Expected to be respected. We got to. Previous structure yet to be tested can expect to be respected. I'm proud of myself for that. Came up with that all on my own, man. Bars out here. But let's go ahead and do USD JPY. USD JPY extremely bullish on this monthly time frame, breaking to the upside. It looks like it still has room to go. If we look at the weekly time frame, there was weekly resistance right around this area that showed itself on the daily time frame. As you can see, it had a little trouble breaking above this area, but once we have broken above it, and since we have broken above it with this aggression, I don't know if a retracement all the way back down to this level is possible, and then another trend continuation to the upside, because it is so extremely overextended that for us J staff, you'll know this, we have a move that we could see a possible retracement. We want to see at least come back down to the 382. Why the 382? Because the 382 is the first level of structure that the market should incur on its retracement. So we could have a possible, I mean, it's extremely overextended, but we just at least want to see it come back to the 382 once the time is right. So once the banks and big market institutions present that to us, we can go ahead and look for that move back down for the retracement. Now, that's all of the majors and the Forex and the normal pairs, which I did promise you all that we'll be doing a full market breakdown today. So I'm gonna try to run through these pretty quickly. A lot of these pairs are correlated, so they'll tend to do the same things, and just for the most part, not too much has changed or will change by the time we go over them again on Wednesday. But let's go ahead and get started. GBP NZD monthly pushing to the upside, further continuation could be possible. Weekly pushing to the upside, further continuation could be possible. We've actually broken above previous structure resistance. And if we drop down to the daily time frame, you can see that we're starting to make moves and completing this impulse to where next we would need some sort of retracement, just simple market structure, which could line up perfectly with this area, and we could see a continuation to the upside. GBP CHF monthly time frame extremely overextended to the downside, and it looks like we are starting the retracement. If we drop down to the weekly time frame, weekly pushing to the upside, coming to retest some previous structure. Daily, let's see if this completed the impulse. Yep, completed it to the T, so a retracement is due. We are coming into previous structure resistance as well. Previous structure support now turned resistance as well, but from there we could possibly see continuation to the upside if the retracement provides itself. If we go to Euro NZD monthly time frame, pushing to the upside, actually starting to create a monthly W formation, which we could be eating off this for a while. If it's on the monthly time frame, we just want to see it come back and complete at the neckline. We are overextended on the monthly on Euro NZD, but we've came to an area where it looks like we want to start the retracement, so further continuation to the downside could be possible. We've been making moves to the downside on the monthly for a while now, but on the weekly, we are starting to break some structure to the upside. If we do get this move back down to some of these areas, that would put us in a good position to see the continuation to the upside. And from the daily time frame, you can see that we're having trouble breaking above this resistance area, where from here we could create some sort of double top, and from there M pattern, or we want to see the neckline completion, which could further propel us to see a higher high created on this market, exactly as we want to see. So just being patient, either need to see the resistance broken and then a retracement, or once we get the move to the downside and then the start back up for a retest of some of these areas, we could be in for a while with that move being able to break above the resistance. CHF JPY, if we look at CHF JPY from the monthly time frame, we're making moves to the upside, extremely overextended to the upside as well. If we look at the weekly time frame, we're starting to make moves back to the upside, just simple market structure once again. Break above structure, come back, retest previous structure broken, and just want to see the trend continue to the upside. If we drop down to the daily time frame, we are starting to make moves to the upside, starting to impulse as well. So if we got some sort of retracement from this area, we could possibly look for a continuation to the upside of the overall weekly TMCP1. So that could be very profitable. And if we do look at Euro GBP from the monthly time frame, broke above some structure, extremely aggressive break, but we then got rejected very aggressively as well. We're starting to make a move back down, which could be either a retracement or this could just be trend continuation. But since we did retest previous structure resistance, we have to assume which is not something that you want to do. But just looking at simple market structure, you can see that we got rejected very aggressively and we're starting to impulse to the downside. So we've broken below some weekly structure. So we can just anticipate the market going to continue to make lower lows. But if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that we've been making lower lows and lower highs from here. We just made a move to the downside impulse. It looks like we want to start the next move to the downside, but we've gotten rejected from some of these lows. So we can't be looking for this with our strategy. Can't be looking for the continuation to the downside, because once the lows get rejected, the probabilities of the trade idea continuing have diminished by a lot. So we can't be looking for that. AUD CAD monthly time frame pushing to the downside, weekly time frame pushing to the downside as well. And if we look at the daily time frame, we found some area of support. So double bottom in this area, we could see a move to the upside to retest some of this, and then the continuation to the downside. So keep an eye out for that. AUD CHF monthly time frame pushing to the downside quite aggressively. Further continuation could be possible. Weekly time frame pushing to the downside very aggressively. We have previous structure that would act as some structure resistance, structure support over here. If it gets retested, structure resistance. And then if we look at the daily time frame, we can see that we started to make a move to the downside right in here, but we are at these lows and we can't be looking to sell at the lows, just as exactly as we can't be looking to buy at the highs. So we want to wait for either a break to the downside and then the retracement, and then we'll look for the continuation. GBP JPY from the monthly time frame pushing to the upside, but once again, this is the monthly candle. The way that it is now is not the way that it's going to close. And then on the weekly, we have the weekly pushing to the upside, starting to break above some structure. And if we do get this break and close below, or close above, we could look for the retracement back down in this area for the continuation to the upside. AUD NZD monthly time frame starting to get aggressive with this bearish move. We're starting to engulf some of the previous bullish candles, so there could be a lot of bearish momentum in this market. We could see further continuation to the downside. If we look at the weekly, what do we have here? One of my favorite patterns. You should already be able to identify it. We have a left shoulder here, we have a head here, and then we have this area that could be used as the right shoulder. So on the weekly time frame, we could see a retracement into this area for a continuation to the downside. But if we drop down to the daily time frame, it's setting up quite nicely. We have this impulse to the downside, found some area of support. We're starting the retracement, retesting some of the previous structure support that should act as resistance on the daily time frame, and we can look for the continuation to the downside. So the overall weekly left shoulder, head, right shoulder could complete itself with a perfect just TMCP1 as well. CAD JPY monthly time frame pushing to the upside. Further continuation to the upside could be possible. Weekly actually broke above this level. So here's a good example of left shoulder, head, and right shoulder, where you don't want to see the right shoulder break above the left shoulder. In that instance, the pattern has failed and you can't be looking for the short anymore. And since we got exactly that, you can see that the market is starting to break to the upside. So we could see further continuation to the upside as well. We're starting to get an impulse on this market, where if we got some sort of retracement back down into some of these areas, we could see a possible continuation to the upside. Euro CHF monthly time frame actually finding trouble breaking to the downside, found some area of support. Weekly time frame coming back to retest some of that area, starting to make a move to the upside, to where we found previous structure support on the monthly, and we just want to see a bounce out of that area. So
it's 16 hours.
Thanks, Siri. We don't want to sell at the lows and we don't want to buy at the highs. But if we have an instance where on the monthly we're coming into some level of support where we want to see a bounce to the upside on the daily time frame, that would be conducive, especially since we're starting to get structure broken to the upside. So if we get a break out of this area, impulse, we could see a possible retracement come back, and from there we could look for a trend continuation to the upside. Euro JPY monthly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively, actually setting up perfectly for a monthly TMCP1. So here's another example, just like USD CHF, We have a break above structure coming back to retest previous structure broken, using it as support, and we've already created the higher high just for a trend continuation. Same thing over and over and over. It's the most common pattern in the market. On the weekly time frame, you can see we're starting to break above some structure as well. And if we look at the daily time frame, we have a nice impulse to the upside, to where if we got some sort of retracement back down into some of these previous structures, we could look for a continuation to the upside. Euro CAD monthly time frame started the retracement, came back into previous structure support that should act as resistance. We started to make a move down to the downside on the monthly time frame, but if we look at the weekly, you can see that we've just been playing in between weekly support as it is right now, and then weekly resistance as well up in this area. So we would actually need a breakout of either way on the weekly time frame, but more than likely to the upside if we did get that. Remember, it's correlating pairs. All the euro pairs are going to be showing mostly the same thing. Just remember that. But if we do get a break above some of these levels up in here, we could see a possible trend continuation after a retracement. So if we get a break up, come back down for trend continuation. AUD JPY monthly time frame. On the monthly, we just got rejected from some of these highs up here, retested them, where we are retesting some more. If we look at it on the weekly time frame, some more levels of structure. So we've been retesting up in this area, got rejected. You should already know what I'm pointing out. We have a left shoulder here, head, where we have this area that could be used as a possible right shoulder for a trend continuation to the downside. If we drop down to the daily time frame, you can see that we've been creating lower lows and lower highs on this market, and only recently we started to break structure to the upside. You know, ideally we want to see the market come in this area for the right shoulder touch and then trend continuation to the downside, but time will tell if the market even wants to make it to that area. But as it is right now on the daily time frame, we're just breaking structure to the upside. So we would need to see the market come back down and retest some of these levels after this impulse retracement. We want to see another impulse to the downside. So nothing really too exciting on AUD JPY. CAD CHF, been making moves to the downside, and it looks like we're coming back for a retracement. We're retesting previous structure support that should be used as resistance. You're talking about low power mode on which one? Oh, you're right. I didn't even look at my camera. Appreciate you, pimp. Appreciate you, pimping. Yes, sir. Good looking, J Money. But CAD CHF monthly time frame, previous structure support getting retested as structure resistance as of right now. So remember, this is the monthly candle we're looking at. It's going to take some time for these patterns to develop and play out. If we look at the weekly time frame, you can see we've had previous structure support highlighted a little more in depth, a little more detail right here on the weekly time frame that could be used as previous structure resistance for a just most common pattern in the market. Impulse, retracement, impulse to the downside. So we've been struggling to make moves to the downside, where we've just been starting to make higher lows out of this market, but we've yet to make a higher high. Once we do get the break above this area, it would be interesting to see how it actually closes. If it does close with a strong break, there could be a possible continuation to the upside just to come retest some of these higher levels before we start to see the move to the downside. But as it is right now, it would be nice to go ahead and see a break below some of these levels first, and then come back, retest for the continuation to the downside if the market wants to present that. Euro AUD monthly time frame, pushing to the upside very aggressively, starting to make a double bottom out of this area, which we know lines up perfectly with a W formation. We have a move to the downside, move up, move down. Then we have another move up where we want to see the pattern come back, complete at the neckline, and then we will be in perfect trend continuation to see the move to the upside as well. If we look at the weekly time frame, quite overextended. If we do get a retracement, then we want to see the market come back to at least the 382 of the overall impulse, which is lining up with some structure. So we've had structure right in here as resistance. You see the 382 lines up perfectly with that level before the market wants to continue to the upside. So here's a possible play on Euro AUD, to where if we look at it from the daily time frame, you can see we are starting to break above some of these levels where this would be the previous structure. Tested once on its way up, Then we finally broke it to the upside, came back, retested that area perfectly as structural support. So if it gets a retest again, it should act as support, and from there we could see price continue to the upside. GBP AUD monthly time frame pushing to the upside kind of aggressively. So we could see further continuations on the weekly time frame pushing to the upside kind of aggressively as well. We have a candle here that is not related to the move, so we know what that means, that this is some structure right in here. This is a structured candle. If the market does come back for a retracement, this could be the prime area the market comes back to before it continues the trend to the upside. If we drop down to the daily time frame, we can see that yes, this was previous structure support once again. So it'll be interesting if the market actually does want to make it down to this area, but that is where the retracement looks like it is headed. So we just want to see the retracement end before we start to look for possible buy opportunities. GBP CAD found a level of support. I'm assuming we are in areas and territories that have never been seen before on this market and a lot of GBP pairs. So we found some level of support all the way down here and we're starting the retracement, which is overdue. If we look at this market right now, we are extremely overextended to the downside. Retracement is in order if we want to see even just the market continue to the downside. It can't go in one direction forever. It has to ebb and flow. So we're starting to make moves back to the upside once again for the monthly retracement. So higher prices are probable. But if we look at the weekly time frame, we've recently broken above some weekly resistance, or starting to break above weekly resistance. We still have 4 days until this candle closes. If the market does end up closing a little higher, we could look for a retracement back down in this area for a continuation to the upside. If we look at it from a daily time frame, we just completed the impulse to the upside. So a retracement is due. We need some sort of retracement in order to continue trend. So just be patient on that. Nothing really too interesting on GBP CAD as of right now. If we slide to NZD CHF monthly time frame, monthly starting to retrace, exhaust, pull back, high probable areas, previous structure support, should see it used as resistance. If we drop down to the weekly time frame, you can see we have, some room to go. Nothing really too much to the left of this market in order to stop the market from coming back to these prices. And then if we look at the daily time frame as well, we are starting to slow the momentum down. So we came back down, creating higher lows, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. Then recently we broke above this structure, created a higher high. Then we've came back down in this area, created a higher low. We started to make moves to the upside where we could possibly create another higher high out of this market. And if we do start to get that, then we could look for the retracement move back up to this level for one of the strategies that we use. Jordan, will probably use a daily patterns entry on that. Monthly time frame of NZD CAD, extremely bearish. Further continuation to the downside could be possible. If we look at it from a weekly time frame, we're overextended to the downside quite aggressively as well. We have a weak retracement that has started with these 2 week retracement candles, where we could just look for a nice and easy, maybe just a wick tap into some of these previous structure areas before we start to see the continuation to the downside. But that is the weekly time frame, so keep that in mind. We've just been bearish on this market for so long on this daily time frame, creating lower lows, lower highs, 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 and you get the picture. We wanted to see the market come back for some sort of retracement out of this area, a little deeper correction. We haven't gotten that yet as it is, but we could possibly see that coming. So over the next few days, if the market does continue to the downside, because we have structure right in this area that the market is retesting currently. We broke below it, closed below it, coming back to retest its previous structure resistance, where we could see a possible continuation to the downside. But just all the way that this market has been moving, I don't really like that move to the downside. So we're starting to, like I said, slow the momentum, where we could possibly see moves back up to the upside just to come back and retest some of these areas. So as it is right now, even though we are bearish on a daily time frame perspective, I would like to give this market a little bit more time before we start to make any decisions on what to do with this market, because we are kind of fairly close to these lows as well. And then we did start to make some sort of retracement back up into this area, breaking above previous structure support that should have acted as resistance. So now that we've broken down below it, I just don't want to get caught on the wrong side of this, and I would rather wait for a clear direction of where the market is headed before we start to actually put, trades on this pair. So we don't want to put our real money on the line if we don't have a good idea or high probabilities of what direction the market is going to go in. So we'll give that a couple days to develop. And if we look at NZD JPY monthly time frame, we broke to the downside, breaking and closing below previous structure, coming back now, retesting that structure that was broken, that should act as some sort of resistance. Once again, monthly candle, the way that it is now is not the way that it's going to close in 14 days. Weekly time frame, nice and easy impulse to the downside, breaking structure. Market coming back for some sort of retracement or exhaustion, could come back to this area right in here for just some trend continuation. But if we drop down to the daily time frame, you can see that we're bullish from a daily time frame. So we need to wait till our time frames are all in alignment. We're bearish on the monthly, bearish on the weekly, but we're bullish on the daily. We need to wait until that is corrected. So let the market correct itself for a while until we start to get the break back down below. Once we start to get that, we could then look for the continuation to the downside for the weekly, for the monthly TMCP1, if we want to go about it like that. But more importantly, just mainly a weekly TMCP1 to the downside. We could be looking for those targets. Now we've gotten through the majors, we've gotten through the crosses. Now we're going to get these exotics. I'm going to try to speed these up even faster, just because I know if you aren't in the program, you probably don't trade exotics as much. But with us, we find opportunities on all these pairs, and it's beneficial to us because we're not forcing trades when they're not there. It gives us plenty of opportunity to find a trade set up to take advantage of. So AUD SGD monthly pushing to the downside, weekly pushing to the downside, started the retracement. And if we look at the daily time frame, we're down here amongst the lows, previous structure support. I would wait for the retracement to come before I would start to look for trends, continuation to the downside. USD PLN monthly pushing to the upside, coming back for a retracement. Weekly starting the retracement, you can see it in a little more detail. Previous structure resistance right in here that should be used as support. And on the daily time frame, we're starting to get bearish, where we could come back down into some of these levels from the daily time frame. And if we do start to break down below, we could see a possible retest of some of these areas for a continuation to the downside. So we just want to wait till the retracement is over. Nothing too exciting. USD Thai Baht monthly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively. Weekly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively, coming back to retest previous structure resistance, now turn support. Made a move to the upside, coming back for a retracement. I want to see this market break out a little more before I start to look for buy opportunities. Euro PLN monthly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively, actually broke above some structure, coming back to retest that structure that was broken. So kind of ideal. We do have a weekly W formation, move to the downside, move up, move down, move up. It is starting to complete at the neckline, so we have just a little bit to go before this pattern is completed, and from there we could see the continuation to the upside. So after the retracement is ended, Euro PLN could see a move to the upside. Once again, correlating pairs, so keep that in mind. If we drop down to the daily time frame, starting to make this M pattern. So if we get a push to the downside, we could see the market come back into some of these areas, which could propel us to go ahead and have that move to the upside from here, which is previous structure resistance now acting as support. Euro SEK monthly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively, weekly pushing to the upside very aggressively, daily time frame nice and easy impulse. We did create some sort of rejection from these highs, but we could see the retracement come back down to some of these areas before we start to see the continuation to the upside for the trend continuation. Clearly, obviously. Monthly time frame of USD SEK pushing to the upside very aggressively, weekly finding trouble breaking above this area, but we did start the TMCP to the upside. On the weekly, just started the retracement a little bit. On the daily, we have been rejected, creating a double top in this area. We know after that we could see a move to the downside, where we could see further propulsion to the upside on this market. So just want to wait till the retracement is over with before we start to look for buying opportunities. Euro SGD monthly time frame pushing to the downside, weekly time frame pushing to the downside as well. Came back for a retracement, but we found some level of resistance in here that is keeping the market below. So as long as we're below that level, we can't be looking for buy opportunities. And since we are finding a level of support right here, once, twice, thrice, we can't be looking for sell opportunities into that area, because it has shown us that historically this level is a level that the big market players and institutions are buying out of. So the probabilities of a continuation are lower. You don't want to be buying at the lows once again, or you don't want to be selling into the lows, and you don't want to be buying at the highs. In daily time frame, you can see we've been rejected with a double bottom even more recently on the daily time frame. So we came into this area, exploded to the upside. You could probably count this as a triple bottom, because this daily candle will more than likely close as it is within the next 45 minutes, 43 minutes and 15 seconds. So we could see the market move to the upside, but we would still need to see it break out of some of these daily levels before we start to look for possible buy opportunities. USD SGD monthly time frame pushing to the upside quite aggressively. Weekly pushing to the upside, started the retracement. Retracement looks nice. On the daily time frame though, we do have an impulse up and an impulse down, and after an impulse we're expected to get some sort of retracement for the trend continuation. So we could see more moves to the downside on this market just here in the near future. Euro ZAR monthly time frame pushing to the upside quite aggressively. Weekly time frame having trouble making moves to the upside, so struggling. We're still stepping, we're still creating higher highs and higher lows, but we're just having trouble. On the daily time frame though, nice and easy W formation completed. This pattern completes 80 to 90% of the time on all time frames. I'm glad you all are aware. I had to move to the downside, move up, move down, move up, move down, came back down in this area, retest the neckline perfectly, and then from there we should see the market create a higher high out of this market. So yeah, take advantage of these patterns, guys. GBP DKK monthly time frame actually got rejected, started to make a move to the downside very aggressively, but got rejected and is starting the retracement. If we look at the weekly time frame, you can see that we're starting to break above some weekly structure, or at least trying to. And if we drop down to the daily time frame, we've had this impulse to the upside, came back for the retracement, started the impulse, but we got rejected at these highs. So we would need to see more development on this pair as well. It would need to break the highs, or it would I can't speak, or it would either need to break some of these lows down in here before we start to look for possible opportunities. GBP DKK, or GBP NOK, excuse me, trapped in between this monthly resistance and support. So really we don't want to do anything until we break out of there, because once we hit resistance we have to treat it as such. So previous structure resistance should act as resistance. We should see a move to the downside, but we came into that area quite aggressively on the weekly time frame. If we look at the daily, we had two big impulse candles to the upside, and we're actually starting the next impulse to the upside as we speak right now. So really we want to see the market break above this level. But if we get the rules of our strategy satisfied, then we could possibly look for a move or a continuation to the upside out of this market. But really it is low probability, since the monthly has been trapped in between these two areas. It's just starting to develop nice on a daily time frame. It's still a good trade, but the probabilities are quite lower because we've just been trapped horizontally. It would be best to take this trade after the breakout. SGD JPY monthly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively from the weekly time frame, just doing what it does on all time frames over and over and over. Break above structure, come back, retest the structure as previous structure support, create a higher high to that. From there we can expect the market to give us some sort of retracement in order to continue the trend to the upside. Just simple market structure. So we've had the breakout of this area as well. If we got a retracement back down into some of these areas, a trend continuation to the upside could be possible. USD ZAR monthly time frame pushing to the upside weekly, starting the retracement on the weekly time frame, and on the daily we've started to create some sort of double top in this area, where if we get further continuation to the downside, we could be looking for a nice and easy M pattern on this market, where we want to see the pattern complete at the neckline. GBP SEK monthly time frame starting to make moves to the upside, so we were trapped below all these levels, all these wick levels of resistance, but now we're starting to break above and close above some of those levels. Now this is the monthly time frame. Once again, the way the candle is now is not the way the candle is going to close in 14 days. Weekly time frame is starting to push above some of these levels as well, starting the impulse, and the daily time frame has broken above with an impulse. If we do get a retracement back down into some of these levels, and then we start to see our entry signals set up, we could look for further continuation to the upside. GBP SGD monthly time frame overextended to the downside, starting the retracement. Weekly time frame having trouble breaking above weekly structure, but if it does break and close above this level, we could then look for possible buy opportunities on the daily time frame. As you see on the daily, we did have a nice and easy impulse to the upside, came back for the retracement, and we are now starting the next impulse to the upside with a little complex correction. We could get something like this out of this market, and then we could see more continuation to the upside. So there's just a few plays for the near future that could happen, but once again, we still need to be patient with some of these markets and wait for clear levels to be broken. NOK/SEK monthly time frame actually looked like it wanted to start the next impulse to the upside, which is this. Another one was an example of just price failing at these highs. So yeah, we have the break above structure coming back for a retracement, retesting previous structure that was broken, started the next impulse to the upside, but did not break above the structure and continue the trend. From there, we got rejected, and then the market started to make moves to the downside. If we look at it from a weekly time frame, you can see that we then turned bearish once we broke below this level, and we've come back to retest that level once again, where we could expect the market to continue back down to the downside. But if we look at it on the daily time frame, we would need the market to break some of these levels of support in order for us to look for the short on the daily time frame. NOK JPY monthly actually starting to get quite aggressive in making this move to the upside. We did get rejected from these highs several times, so be cautious of that, of the market getting rejected out of these highs once again. But we've had a nice and easy impulse to the downside, and the market should have given us the retracement completion right around this area, or at least started to show a loss of momentum. It has not, which gives me an indication that it's going to continue to make an impulse. So we've had an impulse down and an impulse up. After an impulse, we expect a retracement. From there, we would be set up nice with this little inverted head and shoulders makeshift area of structure here, head. Then we could have a possible right shoulder here and see the continuation to the upside if possible. And so just being patient on this market as well, and that's from a weekly time frame. On the daily time frame, we do still have room to go. So we could make moves to the upside, but we are overextended with this W formation. We have this move to the downside, move up, move down, move up. So I would like to see, once the big participants in the market, the hedge funds, banks, institutions, they show us that it is ready for them to go ahead and look for this move back down to this neckline, then that could be a possible not only neckline retest and pattern completion, we could see the further continuation to the downside for the trend continuation as well. So keep an eye out for that. But this market is starting to make an impulse to the upside, where we do expect a retracement at some point. USD NOK from the monthly time frame, extremely bullish, making moves to the upside, breaking structure, coming back to retest that structure, which we could see further continuation to the upside as well. On the weekly time frame, we have a perfect impulse breaking above structure, and we have the perfect retracement started. If we do get a little bit deeper retracement back down into some of these areas, it would be ideal in order to see the continuation from a weekly time frame to go ahead and make the move to the upside. On the daily time frame, though, you can see here's the impulse. We've had this complex correction where we had a double top, M formation started, made a move to the downside, came back, retest the neckline of the M formation, and from there tried to continue trend and making a higher high, but has been rejected, and we're just moving sideways through this market. So until we break out of this horizontal movement, either to the upside or to the downside, there's nothing really to do on USD NOK. Euro NOK Monthly time frame pushing to the upside quite aggressively, coming back for some sort of retracement. Weekly time frame pushing to the upside quite aggressively as well, coming back for a perfect retracement. And then on the daily time frame, you can see that we made a move to the upside, but then we started to create structure, bearish structure, that we've really stayed below. It would be one thing if we start to break some structure from a daily perspective, then we could look for a possible retracement back down into that area for trend continuation if the rules of the strategy are satisfied. Next, USD CNH monthly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively. Weekly pushing to the upside very aggressively as well. On the daily time frame, very aggressive push to the upside. If we get the perfect retracement and the retracement ends, we could look for a continuation to the upside. USD ZEC Corona CZK monthly pushing to the upside very aggressively. Weekly having troubles breaking above some of these levels, actually finding resistance, but if we look at it from a daily time frame, you can see that we did start this impulse breaking above some structure, and then we've came back into these areas, retesting them once again. I was looking for the continuation to the upside from this market, but since then we've just got rejected from these highs, and now we're starting to make moves to the downside. So we could wait for the possible M formation to form before we start to look for the continuations to the upside. But as it is right now, nothing really too exciting on this market. And this is tough, one of the trades I took this morning. But monthly time frame of USD DKK, monthly time frame pushing to the upside very aggressively. Weekly time frame having trouble breaking above this area, which it was setting up nicely for a perfect weekly TMCP1. We wanted to see trend continuation, but has then been rejected. And if we look at it from a daily time frame, just a little more in depth on the 4-hour time frame as well. Oh, it was USD. See, that's what I thought. Ended up getting rejected out of this area. I was looking for the same thing on USD DKK, but they are correlated pairs, so I'll try to practice what I preach here. I'm only going to take one or split the risk. So I chose USD ZEC Corona instead of USD DKK. Ended up being a 1R loss. Toughy. I wanted to see the move to the upside, but it did not provide that. So nothing really too interesting on these pairs. USD Huff pushing to the upside very aggressively from the monthly time frame, coming back for a retracement. And if we look at it from a weekly time frame, actually starting a perfect impulse and retracement, breaking above structure and coming back to retest that structure that was broken. Let's see what we look like on the daily time frame. It's actually a very aggressive retracement. So these three bearish candles take up the same amount of price as these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullish candles. That means there is momentum to the downside. So we are very aggressively pushing to the downside. And if we look at the patterns that we can identify, is we've had a level of the market here that found resistance. We broke above it and then immediately came back into the area. We could possibly see that area being used as resistance coming from underneath it for the trend to continue to the downside. So that is from the daily time frame USD Huff. We don't have anything to really attack from a daily patterns strategy perspective. So we could just possibly wait for the retracement to come, and then we'll look for the continuation to the downside. Now, USD Mexican Peso monthly time frame, really trapped in between these areas. So spoke about it before. Nothing interesting. It's just moving horizontally, or consolidating, moving sideways, whatever you want to call it. Nothing really too interesting on this market. So we wanted to see the move to the downside if it was going to create that out of this impulse down breaking structure, come back for a retracement, retest previous structure broken, having it used as the opposite. So previous structure support now turned resistance. So want to see the trend continuation break out of all of this area. We did not get that, got rejected, came back, retested some of the highs, so hence the consolidation and sideways movement. Came back, retested some of these highs where we want to see the market create a higher high out of there if it's going to, but we want to see it actually ultimately break this structure. So it did not, and we are starting to retest some of these.
16:30.
We're starting to retest some of these lows once again. So until we break out of this level in the market, it's really not in your best interest to go ahead and try to trade USD Mexican Peso. I think the last time we spoke about it, the market was making moves to the downside, but had broke above this area and came back down below it. And I said I want to see this area be used as the right shoulder, which it is currently being used as structure resistance, even multiple times. Then for the continuation to continue, then for the trend to continue to the downside. So I know that was a lot on USD Mexican peso for me to all say nothing really too interesting on this pair, but yeah, nothing really too interesting on this pair. We would need to see several levels of structure broken before any of our strategies become viable. So now let's go over it. Last but not least, some of y'all's favorite, BTC USD Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and talk about it. You know, from the monthly time frame, where I'm 100 times before, previous structure resistance broken to the upside, now being used as support. And this is just from a monthly time frame. On the weekly, you can see that we're starting to find several levels of support right in here. So we found some structure support once, twice, thrice, a fourth time, a fifth time. It's this 18,000 level, man. Price does not want to break below this 18,000 level, really make moves below that. So that's actually good. You can possibly give us a pattern we can capitalize on just here in the short term. Now, once again, I do not expect Bitcoin to make its move to the upside to retest all-time highs until 2024 when the next halving event happens. That is exactly what happened here when the price jumped from somewhere right around 8,000 to 12,000 per coin to the 60,000 that it got up to. So we're going to have that same catalyst happen in 2024, which is when I expect the market to obviously react in the same way. We've had a lot of people take their Bitcoins off of exchanges and actually put them into cold storages, wallets, and all these other things, to where the amount of Bitcoin now is so low that these people, once the halving event comes, will have an immense amount of gains that they create that will help fuel the market to push to the upside. So all that liquidity will come. You just imagine everybody that's holding all their coins will get basically double the amount of coins at this price point. So that should propel the market to the upside to at least come retest the all-time highs, if not create a new high. But that's not until 2024. But now we did a full market breakdown, man. Chucky didn't start it over. We didn't wait so long. But I appreciate you viewing. I appreciate you, J Money, hopping in the chat, being here. It means a lot. But once again, we'll be back on Wednesday in between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, in between those times, I will be going live. I hope y'all can join me. If not, they are recorded and I will post them later. So don't stress. But that's pretty much it, man. I'm going to go ahead and get up off here. I don't have too much in the chats. You know it. Go ahead and hit your boy with a thumbs up. Like the video. Make sure you are subscribed so you get notified when I do go live. Anytime I post something as well. They're not ready for us, bro. But as you can see, just a brief overview of the direction of the market and where I think it's going to go over the next few days. So until we get back on Wednesday, that's pretty much it, man. I'm going to get on up out of here. Hope you have a profitable day on and off the charts. And until Wednesday, yeah.